You mean you don't even have a church building?
Not yet.
Welcome back to Redemption Talk. It's Rob and Jordan here. This week, what we want to do is we want to talk a little bit about what exactly a church plant is. It seems that recently we've had a lot of people ask that question or ask questions like, where's your building at? Or how are you going to build your building? And so what we want to do is we want to just maybe talk about some of that, address some of those questions that we've had, and maybe clear up any confusion as to what a church plant actually is. Sound good?
Yeah. So one of the first questions that a lot of people have been asking is, where are you planting your church?
Yeah, where are we planting a church? And the answer to that is Pensacola, Florida, right? But I think what people mean when they ask that question is a lot of times they're saying, where are you going to build your building? Mm-hmm. I think we need to be very clear, and we need to understand that, the church is separate from the building. I heard it said this way: if your building burned down tomorrow, would you still have church? Right? And prayerfully, the answer to that would be yes, right? Because the church isn't bound to a facility. While facilities do facilitate ministry,
Mm-hmm.
the facilities in and of themselves is not the church, right?
Mm-hmm.
I think culturally, we say things like, I'm going to church. And what we mean by that is, Eli's in the
Just sneezed.
in the studio again, but
Bless you. Jason.
But I think what people mean by that is, I'm going to meet at a specific time at this specific building. When I say I'm going to church, or I'll meet you at the church.
Mm-hmm.
I think that culturally, that is a true statement. I think that in the truest sense of the word, when we say, I'm meeting you at church, I think that more specifically, it should be a gathered group of people, right? That's
Mm-hmm.
the church. The people are the church. And we hear that preached and we hear that explained, but we need to be very careful to clarify that the building is not the church.
So if the church is more the group of people, where will these group of people be meeting?
Yeah. So if the church, let me make sure I get this right. So you're saying if the church is the people, right?
Mm-hmm.
Where will the people meet? Well, they'll meet in a facility. And I think in our context, we're working through that,
Mm-hmm.
right? We're going to be, I think we've explained, we're going to be a gathered and scattered type model.
Mm-hmm.
I've stolen that language from somewhere, but we're going to be a gathered and scattered type model, meaning that we'll gather corporately one time a week, and then sometime throughout the week, we'll be scattered in the community, but yet gathering in small groups.
Mm-hmm.
And where those locations are, it's still kind of yet to be seen. I know we're working with the middle school. There's a possibility of meeting in a middle school when we get to that point where we need the space.
Mm-hmm.
But right now, we'll be in homes. We'll be at beach pavilions. We'll be at a park. We'll be maybe at a coffee shop.
Really suffering for Jesus.
Suffering for Jesus, I know. Ready for all the jokes. But yeah, and once again, it goes back to the planting a church isn't tied to a physical building.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, where are we planting a church? We're planting in Pensacola, the Pensacola area, more than likely. More specifically, I guess it would be the right way to say that, is the Gulf Breeze community.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, that's where we'll be. But where specifically there, that's yet to be seen. So
Okay. So you might find us at the local Starbucks or
yeah,
in the white sand talking about Jesus somewhere, right?
well, and I think I think that culturally, Jordan, I think sometimes a church can lose its missional focus if we don't understand that fundamentally we're separate from the facility that we find ourselves meeting in.
Mm-hmm.
I as I go around, I travel, I'm meeting with different pastors and different people that are partnering with us. It seems that a common theme that I hear is you have to be very careful with the building that you meet in. And what they are saying is basically that building can radically transform and change the DNA of the church.
How is that?
Okay. So if I'm not against sanctuaries, I'm not against beautiful sanctuaries. But I do think that if we're not careful, if all we do is we're worried about a building, we're worried about a facility, that becomes the mission of the church.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, because remember, the church is separate from the building,
Mm-hmm.
and the church should have a mission, and they're going to be working towards and should be doing something. And if we're not careful, we'll let the facility become our mission
Mm-hmm.
and not advancing the kingdom of God.
Absolutely.
I think there's something else too, right? I'm not against pews. I'm not against permanent seating, stadium seating. However, there is something sweet about a congregation that every Sunday morning has to pick up chairs and put chairs out. Why? Because it gets our people involved in the ministry, right? And so I think that the way you design a building, the way that the place you meet, I've heard it said this way: when we start off, most likely we'll be doing church in a box, meaning that we'll pack all of our stuff, instruments and chairs and sound equipment and all that stuff, keep it in a trailer. And if we're meeting in a school, we set it all up on Sunday morning and then we take it all back down.
Yeah.
And while people say, man, that's a hassle, it is a hassle. There is something sweet, though, about the body of Christ, the church,
Mm-hmm.
coming together to serve a purpose, to come together to corporately worship and be involved in a service. That way, it's not some show, it's not a production.
Oh yeah.
But we're involved in actively coming together to worship. And so, like I said, I'm not against like fixed seating or anything
Mm-hmm.
like that. It's just we have to be careful that we don't let those things radically transform and change the DNA of our church.
Well, when you and I first met, remember I was going to that church in Olive Branch, and I would do Sunday school with the little kids in the morning. Then I'd stay for the second service and sit in on that and listen, and then I'd help pick up chairs afterwards.
Right.
That involvement in being able to help pick up chairs, I think, has transformed my ministry and
Yeah.
allowed me to realize, hey, I can help in the church in
Right.
some form or fashion.
Right. And it changed your life. You think about,
There's a spider on your mic right now.
uh-oh. Oh, there is. Goodbye, Mr. Spider. Oh, man.
He
All
just
right.
killed Lucas the spider.
Well, shouldn't have been on my mic, I guess.
He just wanted to be in the podcast.
Should have been packing up chairs at a building. Anyway, you're right. It is. It gets you involved. It causes you to have a purpose. I remember at Getwell, they had a multi-purpose building, and it was, I remember being a kid and being involved in picking up chairs and setting things up and tearing this down and doing that, and it made you feel like you had a sense of purpose.
Mm-hmm.
And so, like I said, I think we fundamentally need to be careful that we differentiate what a church plant is. A plant. Here's what I think a plant is. If I was gonna maybe just off the cuff give it a definition, is that a church plant is the result of disciples being made.
Mm.
Okay? So, like, think about this in Acts, right? What did Paul do? He would go, he would preach in a city, he'd preach in a synagogue, he would preach to a group of people. Some of them would profess Christ, they would be saved. Some of them would reject Christ and they would kick them out. And what resulted from that is this group of people would go and they would form a church.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think at its basic level, a church being planted is just simply the result of disciples being made. Mm-hmm. Not that the established church doesn't make disciples and bring them into the fellowship. Of course they do, right? But in a new place, in a new area, with a new group of people, disciples being made, what results is a church being planted. And I think that church planting is the means by which God uses to advance his kingdom, right? So.
Oh, absolutely.
So, yeah, I hope that clarifies some of that. So I think that, I think it's very common. People say, where's your church? And just the cultural.
Right here.
Yeah, you know what I'm saying? We are the church, right? We need to be careful to to understand and differentiate that a church isn't tied to a building, right? So, yeah, that was good questions. And, man, hopefully we can get back on track to doing podcasts pretty regularly. I know the last few weeks have been really busy. Actually, in fact, today we've got a Zoom meeting that we've got to get on here in a second and looking at a house. So be in prayer for us as we move our family.
And, I don't think that we officially announced through our podcast that we are partnered with NAM.
Yeah, did we not do that?
I don't think we have.
Yes, we have gotten a lot's happened.
Yeah, a lot has happened
so
since we filmed.
We are NAM, North American Mission Board endorsed missionaries, I guess now, church planners.
Never in my life thought this would be our title.
Yeah, me too. But so be praying for us. Be praying for us as we continue in this process. Remember, you can check us out online at www.redemptionchurchplanting.org. There's some more information about the plant that's there. Be sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel so you can stay up to date with these podcasts and what's going on. Go to our website, put your email address in there, and you'll get a monthly newsletter from us. You can also stay up to date, some more specific prayer requests and how you can be praying for us as we begin. And so, yeah, be in prayer for us. We so grateful that you tuned in today. We really hope to see you real soon again. God bless you.